Hey everybody, Top About the Six here. Welcome to episode 4 of our Let's Play series for the INNSMOUTH case. So, through a course of action, unbeknownst to myself, we find our way to the harbor, and from there, the lighthouse. And some interesting things happen. I can't wait to show you. Let's play. All right, everybody, welcome back to episode 4 of the INNSMOUTH case. We're diving right back into where we left off last episode. We have decided to go towards the lighthouse because we couldn't get into the church. A path consisting of jagged rocks leads to the lighthouse on the harbor. The lighthouse is on the end of a narrow strip of land, and as you walk towards it, the surging waves risk drenching your clothes in icy salt water. It takes all your concentration and some balancing not to wipe out on the slippery rocks. In your mind's eye, new bills are already fluttered in the mailbox. One from the shoe repair shop and one from the physiotherapist. An overturned wooden sign lies on the ground between a few of the rocks. You read the label. Warning. Absolutely no trespassing. INNSMOUTH hasn't been precisely inviting to you since your arrival, so you already know the tune. You approach the lighthouse and looking for shelter. But with every step you take, the place becomes more and more unwelcoming. The gray clouds transform into a mighty storm. Lightning strikes the top of the tower and sparks fly. Despite the storm, the lighthouse keeper hasn't put on the signal, so there's no beam of light to guide the boats out there safely to the harbor of INNSMOUTH. Soon you're completely drenched, but you make it at last. You're standing at the door leading to the inside of the lighthouse. Some joker has scratched something into the flaking white layer of paint on the surface of the door. Do not come any closer. They want your body. This sounds suspiciously like danger. You have to be pretty damn stupid not to take this improvised inscription seriously. An old lighthouse holds many potential sources of danger. The rusty structure is about to fall in on itself, has unsafe railings and stairs, and there just may be a madman with a shotgun waiting for you. You consider the dangers that this dilapidated old building may hold. A fragile building about to collapse. UFO nutters with aluminum hats. Sex-hungry, mindless, naked cultists. House dust. Not to mention the missing girl that you need to find. Still, how often do you come to a place like this? Almost automatically, your hand comes to rest on the black iron door handle and pushes it slowly down and carefully. The door opens a crack, giving you a small glimpse into the neglected interior of the lighthouse. Darkness. We're gonna enter. Unsure of what to do next, you peek into the darkness. It's a dark, tall building, a very, very tall and thin building, admittedly. It's highly unlikely that the lighthouse will collapse today of all days. At least this is what you keep repeating to yourself in your mind, like a mantra. You step inside. It's dry, but cold. The icy, stale air cools your shivering limbs even further. A spiral staircase leads up to the higher levels and to the top of the lighthouse. On the higher floors, you can see round windows on the side of the wall, through which thunder and lightning now briefly flickers of light. Even the lowest corridor catches some of this light so that you can find yourself not completely in the dark. There's also some lamps that wind up along the banister. The black and white tiles on the floor have probably not been cleaned since the dawn of time. Storage boxes are cluttered around the place and take up about a third of the area of the ground level. To your astonishment, the walls of the lighthouse consist of a solid stone foundation, The metallic red and white painted exterior cladding must have been installed sometime later as a modernization measure. You think that a sex cult in here is now a bit unlikely, but you do not want to give up hope just yet. What now? Flip the light switch, inspect the boxes, walk upstairs. We're going to flip the light switch. Trying won't hurt unless, of course, you blow a fuse. You flip the light switch and wait in the twilight for something to happen. You know from the old lamps in the cellar that they sometimes need a little time. You flip the switch again and again. You've come to the conclusion that you'll have to do it with the pale daylight. As you look more closely, you realize that there's an inscription just above the switch. You manage to make out activate to close the electrical circuit. Electricity powers many machines, especially those giving off light and warmth. Indeed, that is how light switches work. Well, observe, strange person who wrote on the wall. We're going to inspect the boxes. Consider that the lighthouse is easy to reach from the port. It strikes you as odd that there are all these supplies here. The boxes seem to hold food supplies, which make up the bulk of the goods, and loads of spare electrical parts. You inspect one of the open crates. That, according to its label, has been delivered by a company from Salem. Spare lamps, wool, tools, wiring. In theory, even a dusty system such as this one can be brought back to life with all these parts. The food is not quite to your taste, but efficient. Tinned tuna, sauerkraut, and all kinds of canned fruit that still fill over half of one of the open crates. 4 of the boxes are empty, 12 others are still untouched. Whoever lived here must have avoided contact with the locals like the devil avoiding holy water. Finally, some sensible people. We're gonna climb the stairs now. Fucking allergies. The banister has suffered the most age damage. The ravages of time not only worn away the paint on the metal, but also the iron struts and pillars themselves. The scaffold seems to move precariously as you walk up, just as if the construction is about to collapse. When you're halfway up the stairs, you can hear a loud metallic creaking sound. The stairway suddenly jerks down a little, and your insides feel like they can continue dropping to the ground. Fine dust flutters around your head. You try to guess the depth of the fall. If the structure were to collapse now, you would break quite a few bones, or worse. The chances of you getting caught up in a sex cult decreases with every step you take. We're going to keep going. Just because the core of the spiral staircase is a bit loose, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to collapse, right? And perhaps it's just the residue alcohol in your bloodstream that's causing everything to spin. You carefully continue your way to one of those higher floors. About 30 feet above the entrance hall is the first mezzanine floor. A metal plate in the core of the spiral staircase would also provide some stability if the whole thing wasn't so damn rusty. You can see a plain bed, a desk with a telephone, a chest of drawers, and a wardrobe with an embedded mirror. A Persian carpet is laid out over the ribbed metal floor. A pathetic attempt to make this room a little more homely. At least there's a window on this level. Rain pelts against the glass. The weather outside seems to get worse and worse. You hesitate. Welcome back. We're going to inspect the room more closely. There's not much to explore here. Some neatly folded sheets and bedding have been placed on the bed. Awaiting a new inhabitant, perhaps? You turn to the desk. On it are a few envelopes and an atlas. Let's take a look at the envelopes. You grab an envelope from the stack, your fingers glide over the rough fibrous paper. In the faint light, you can see how yellowed the envelope is. Either it's specially made paper from the craft shop, or these letters are pretty old. The envelope is not sealed, so you fish out 10 $100 bills and a piece of paper with strange doodles that don't make sense to you. Is that a language? The characters are too chaotic for normal text, going across in rows and back again. On the back, you find a small text in English. Means of payment necessary for the purchase of goods and services. Valid from to, with doodles instead of a date. Maybe it's art? The only question is whether you're going to pocket the money or not. Yeah. The envelope has not been sealed, not a soul around for miles, and you need the money badly. You briefly try to convince yourself that the money might go off. There seems to be something of a shelf life implied. You can't think of any better arguments, and even those... you'd be hard-pressed to accept as an excuse for your behavior. Hastily, you stuff the bills into a side pocket of your jacket. That's where they are now, right above your heart. You put the scribbled paper back in the envelope because that's exactly how you found it. Precisely like that. You inspect the bed. Doesn't look super cozy. There's an open to the headboard, place of rest used for sleep cycle and procreation rituals. Traditionally used for during the nighttime. For care instructions and terminology, check. The rest of the note is now is not legible and covered up by strange scribbles. You inspect the atlas. The atlas from 1984 is still in amazingly good condition. You'd think that it had been sitting here on the desk for decades, waiting just for you. You look through the table of contents and flip through the atlas. Some of the pages are marked. Areas in Antarctica and Australia are marked with strange curls. In addition, pages about the United States, the state of Massachusetts, and the surroundings of INNSMOUTH are marked. A yellowed road map of INNSMOUTH has been stuck into the pages like a bookmark. The lighthouse is marked. On the last page, you find an entry. Landmass distribution in political territories valid for, followed by a series of the same curls. You put the book back how you found it. It's an old telephone with a dial plate. Just for fun, you pick the receiver and get a dial tone. Next to the phone is another note. Communication apparatus connects acoustically to other similar constructed equipment after identification number is entered. Identification numbers can be obtained in person or from a central register provided. Under the phone are two old books dating back to the 70s. The first one is a consumer electronics manual. A short leaf through shows you manuals and construction plans for TVs, cameras, telephones, radios, cars, and the like. The other book is a Boston phone book. There's a bookmark peeking out of the side of it. When you open the book on a page, the phone number of a carpet cleaning company is marked. You can make neither heads nor tails of the matter. Let's call the phone number. On a whim, you decide to call the number. Maybe someone on the other end has an explanation for all of this. You know that it's very likely that the shop is bankrupt and the connection has been switched off. After all, the number is from the early 70s. You're surprised there's a signal and it seems to ring at the other end. After 4 or 5 rings, someone actually picks up the phone, but instead of a voice, you hear a series of strange clicking noises, as if a giant cricket or an angry lobster were on the other end. Hello? Anybody there? The clicking sound on the other end ceases and a voice comes through the receiver. Cole's carpet cleaner. James speaking. How can I help? It really is a carpet cleaner. Who would have thought? I'm calling from a lighthouse? A lighthouse, really? Have you ever looked at the sea from above? There's something quite surreal about the answer. No? You should definitely do that. View is breathtaking. We go so far as to say it could change your whole life, but if you're in INNSMOUTH, there's nothing I can do for you. Only clean carpets in Boston. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do. Hung up. You inspect nothing else. You'd think you've seen enough to continue to follow up the banister upstairs. Meanwhile, thunder and lightning outside have become so furious, just as if the center of the storm is the lighthouse itself. Stoically, you continue your way upstairs. The banister continues to wobble and squeak suspiciously, but it withstands the strain. The radius of the spiral staircase gradually becomes smaller. You estimate that you are now halfway up the building. You walk past another platform floor. The level is obviously used for nothing else but storing boxes. At least 30 or 40 stacked boxes full to a brim with books. Seeing all these books causes a warm fuzzy feeling in the pit of your stomach. How adorable. The previous lighthouse keepers must have been bibliophiles. You hope you can get to meet them, even though the place does look pretty deserted. We're going to inspect the books. You take a moment to examine the books, the boxes, and the contents more closely. Quickly, you realize these are almost exclusively non-fiction books. You discover lexicons, grammar for English and Spanish, non-fiction books on biology, chemistry, physics, and geography. There's also a Bible, a guide to etiquette, and a Warren handbook for tourists in the East Coast. Out of interest, you flip through some of the books. The newest ones seem to be from around the 1980s, but some go as far back as the 20s. Many are decorated with strange curls around the edges. In the last box, you find a few books that differ greatly from the scientific character of the rest. These are the books about occultism, the obscure religions, titles like The Mysteries of the Worm, Unspeakable Cults, and Liber Ivoris. There's also a book by popular UFO nutcase, and suddenly everything makes sense. Maybe the lighthouse keeper was a little soft in the head. Probably the loneliness. You keep walking up the stairs, past another mezzanine, and then you're on the upper level of the lighthouse. It's getting more and more unlikely that you'll find anything relating to your case here. Oh well. Well, we're gonna expect the mezzanine. You find a strange collection of objects on this level: sports equipment, musical instruments, and toys. The objects seem to have no connection to each other. In one corner, you can see an old tube television set with a Betamax device connected to it. Maybe it's worth looking through all this. Perhaps you'll find something valuable or interesting. Look at the exercise machines first. As a sports grump, you never manage to understand why people, after they have mastered mobility without using legs, will still voluntarily stand on bicycles or treadmills for fun. You suspect it must be a deep-seated masochism in the collective soul. The sports equipment includes a bicycle trainer, a treadmill, and a device that simulates climbing stairs. The latter seems particularly pointless to you, as this tower by God already had enough stairs. In general, you do not understand why all these devices had to be carried up all the way to the second floor. In addition, all this sports equipment looks like it's hardly ever been used. On each machine, there's a small row of pictograms that show the use of the machine. At first, you think they're instructions from the manufacturer, but then you realize that the pictograms are hand-drawn. We're going to inspect the toys. There's a bunch of colorful objects arranged on a table. You find a Rubik's Cube, a plastic hoop, some juggling balls, and a bunch of Mikado sticks. There's also a few of those annoying skill-based games where you have two metal hooks tangled together and you have to get them apart somehow, but you can't make it work and get frustrated and just want to have tequila shots and be left alone with that kind of nonsense. Emma, that's not why you came to the pub. You know the kind. There's trauma there with this guy. Besides toys, you also find a pen and a piece of blank paper, a key and a padlock, some tins, a can opener, and a plate of cutlery and other everyday items. On the wall behind the table hangs a large poster which someone has drawn two hands. Stippled hands. Know your tools. Underneath are some hand gestures that you can use to create shadow play. You fiddle for a bit and expand your repertoire. Now you can do the crane, the elephant, and the crossroads. We're going to look at the musical instruments. You see a piano and a guitar. You shudder to think about the poor soul who had to drag the piano up to this floor. On top of the piano are some sheets of paper. Strangely enough, they're not musical scores, but a collection of curls and drawings of finger positions. It seems as if the piano was intended less as a musical instrument and more as a training ground for finger acrobatics. You don't know what to make of all this. An old tube TV with a video recorder attached, Betamax to be exact. A cassette is lying on top of the device with a note saying, "Information memory, insert into device and activate playback." Underneath the solid drawing of the individual steps. I'm gonna watch the video. You can't think of anything better to do with your time, so you insert the cassette in the machine. The picture quality is, well, that of a video cassette. There doesn't seem to be any sound, just a series of images of people walking, strolling, running, hiking. The material seems to be cut together from different sources, regardless of context. You see excerpts from movies, sports shows, aerobic videos, music shows. Then follow footage of people sitting in chairs, Climbing stairs, dancing, cycling, and swimming, all in complete silence. Finally, the screen goes dark. Just as you're about to take the tape out of the recorder, a new section of the recording begins. Again, it's the same wild mix of source material, but this time the focus is on hands. Clapping hands, gesticulating hands, hands that use typewriters, cutting food, steering cars, and other things. You wait desperately for an explanation, but the whole movie is completely silent. Then the picture turns black, and with a loud click, the tape is ejected. Well, that was a waste of time. At least no creepy Japanese kids crawled out of the TV. All right, we're gonna head up to the next level. The last steps are always the hardest, or is it the first ones? No matter which steps, your heart is now beating so strongly that you can feel it pressing against your chest. Once you're back home, you should really consider a healthier lifestyle. At least you've reached the top floor of the lighthouse. Dulled glass windows separate you from the thunderstorm outside. Rain pours down on the panes, and lightning occasionally illuminates the sky, revealing the billowing sea. If you were an artist, this would be the ideal place to paint tasteless paintings with ships in the churning waters. In the center of the floor, there's a metal column that must be there to support the lighthouse's uppermost platform. You assume that all this serves to stabilize and balance the construction. Apart from that, the floor is completely unfurnished. Sheets of paper with strange doodles are fixed to some of the window panes. Pencil portraits of people, trees, houses, and dogs. Around each drawing, someone seems to have made notes, but you can't make out the language. You wonder if it was a destitute artist who lived here towards the end, or some sort of Russian sleeper agent. Another ramp leads to the top of the lighthouse, where the actual lighthouse apparatus must be installed. You walk up the steep stairs. You've done it. You've made it to the top of the lighthouse. Not in a million years did you think that this job would take you on such an exciting place on a boring coastal town. There is a nasty thunderstorm out there, and the lightning keeps illuminating the glass cage at erratic intervals. Spellbound, you look at the roaring waves. They're beautiful. The power and steady movement of the waves, the foamy salt water splashing up oh so incredibly high. You're so enticed by that majestic beauty that you almost wish you were outside now. Feel the fresh sea breeze on your skin, but wait. Why did you come here again? Try to tear yourself away from the endless spectacle of the sea and turn your attention to the center of this small glass dome. It is then that you make a curious observation. The lighthouse has no light at all. There is no light construction that can rotate in the direction of the harbor or the sea, or even a flashlight on a microphone stand. Where you'd expect some sort of electrical machine, there's only a black column of about 3 feet wide, whose curved forms merge at the top into kind of a marble plate. An altar. A voice in the back of your head informs you. There's a cube on the altar. Look at the cube more closely. As you walk closer, the material of the cube must be bronze. It glistens dully in front of the black marble column. The object looks as if it belongs just there. It's perfect where it is. Everything looks as if it's been made from one piece. What you first thought was some arbitrary decoration turns out to be hieroglyphics. Cranes, simple tools, knowing eyes. Curiously, you walk to the column in which the cube rests. What are Egyptian hieroglyphics doing in a lighthouse on the east coast of the United States? Your fingers are itching. You take the cube into your possession. Just for a brief second, you simply have to hold the bronze cube in your hand and feel the texture of its surface in your fingertips, and inspect the hieroglyphics more closely and measure its exact weight, smell it, look it. You have to know everything absolutely about it. You extend your hand to touch the cube. And now you can't let go of it again. It seems to have melted into your skin or somehow attached itself to you. Yes, it has sucked itself onto you and it continues to suck. Your consciousness, your soul, everything is now trapped in a never-ending slipstream coming from the cube. You feel like you're caught in a mighty vortex that pulls you down deeper and ever deeper. All of a sudden, you have a strange out-of-body experience and start to see yourself from the perspective of the cube. You feel something unbelievably strange beside you. Some sort of being has emerged from the depth of the vortex. and is passing you by to float on to the opposite direction. Your soul is swallowed by the cube, and something strange occupies your body, loosens the last anchors, and pushes you over the edge. You cling desperately to your mortal shell, and then your consciousness starts to crumble. For a brief moment, you think that, from the perspective of the cube, you're looking at the eyes that no longer belong to you. Then everything goes black. And dead again. Oh, not dead. As you wake up from restless dreams, a bright light shines in your eyes. It feels like a burning sensation directly penetrating into your brain. After the initial shock, you gradually come to your senses. You are no longer at the lighthouse. You find yourself in a huge round chamber made of dark, smooth stone. Curved lines adorn the walls and give off a soft fluorescent glow. You begin to wonder how many hours you've been knocked out. Did you have a stroke? No wonder, given all the stress you constantly put yourself under. Sound. A chirping and clacking that vaguely reminds you of insects. Only it's louder and seems to be coming from directly behind you. Someone's in this room with you. You turn around quickly, trying to find the source of the clacking sound, and you regret it immediately. Hideous, bizarre monsters are lined up in front of you like the set of a bad horror movie. They're basically just huge cones of flesh covered with a thin film of slime. You instinctively think of slugs. They have uneven skin covered with furrows and wrinkles and a thin film of mucus. You involuntarily think back to your childhood, to the dark period you refer to as the Big Snail Plague. You shudder at the thought of the army of snails that torpedoed your tender attempts to grow your own small tomato plantation in the family garden. Then came the rats. But right now, you have other problems. The flesh cones are a bizarre sight. Your mind is having trouble processing what it sees. At the top of the flesh cones are 4 tentacle-like growths, each ending in a different organ. 2 form huge sharp claws that appear to be clicking incessantly. Another one ends in a jumble of trumpet-like tubes, and a 4th forms what you think is the head of the creature. A round organ with 3 eyes, a set of feelers above, and a ring of tentacles just below. Half a dozen of these creatures now stare at you from their bright yellow eyes, clicking their scissors menacingly. One of the beings breaks away from the group and comes towards you with its claws raised. You do the only rational thing. Try to run away. The creature moves like a snail. It has no legs, rather its base expands and contracts again. Another feature it has in common with snails is that it's not particularly fast. You look around and scan the room. There's a door on the other side. You start running, but nothing happens. You want to move your feet, but something feels wrong. The creature's getting closer. It has already covered over half the distance between you. The feeling of doom sets in. Why can't you move? Can't even feel your legs. You're trapped somehow. Tied down, perhaps? You look down at yourself. But instead of your hands, these scissors at the end of tentacles appear in front of your eyes. You stare down at yourself in disbelief and find yourself transformed into a monstrous vermin. Are we back? Okay. Okay. All right. All right. All right. Were you expecting to see where you were expecting to see your legs? There's only a fleshy cone from which four tentacles grow a pitiful claw arm, a trumpet-like extension, and your neck. You're no longer in your own body. What is happening to me? You ask yourself, but you already know for yourself. You're one of those monsters. You faint. You should be able to understand me now. When you open your eyes, you're still in the same position where you lost consciousness. Only a brief moment seems to have passed, but what is this pinching feeling on your neck? Looks like a small device has been attached to your new body. Waking up in a new body is disturbing, I understand that. So first of all, let me reassure you that this state is not permanent, and when you return, you won't remember anything. You hear the voice not through your ears or the comparable organ in this body, but directly in your head. What you hear is the clicking of scissors. I've attached a translation device to you. We can now discuss all the questions you no doubt have. Evidently, the beings communicate with each other via their scissors. So what would you like to know? Who are you? The creature straightens up. We, the translation in your head begins with an air of gravitas. The great race of Yith. We're the wisest species in the whole creation. Countless eons ago, but also in distant future, we made it our mission to gather all the knowledge of the universe. We've sent our agents through space and time to observe and study. When we learned of our own demise in this way, we transplanted our spirits en masse into this form that you now see before you. Your new friend seems to want to do a playful pirouette to show off his body, but since he is resting on slimy snail's foot, the process takes a good 2 minutes. Snazzy, isn't it? So functional and sturdy. His scissors rub against each other, which your device translates as actual coughing. Anyway, to answer your question more directly, I am Merton. My colleagues and I are archivists in the Great Library of Panacotis, Department of Human Studies, Western Hemisphere Subdivision, pre-nuclear America Working Group, or as we like to call ourselves, Amebocytes. As if they've rehearsed it before, the other Yith in the room began to shout, "Tough Amebocytes!" Great. They're nerds. Alright, where am I? The creature's thinking, you're in Australia, huh? I've always imagined Australia differently. The important question is when you are. Clicks one of the beings from further back in the room. The creature closer abruptly turns its clawing neck around towards the heckler. Damn it, Funk. That's my favorite part of the newcomer lecture. Don't spoil it for me. Although you do not yet have much control over your new body, you can apparently roll your eyes. Okay, when am I? But the creature in front of you seems to be in a huff. Man, it's no fun now. You're on Pangea in the Permian period, in the late Paleozoic era, where in the distant future Australia will one day rise, about 250 million years before we picked you up. I traveled through time. Now it's the creature's turn to roll its eyes. No, make this brief. Yes, you did. Yes, like on TV, just completely different. No, we don't keep a record of lottery numbers. No, we don't have an interest in killing fascists while they're still children. No, we cannot start any paradoxes. The universe is predetermined and free will is an illusion. Yes, there can be that can be a bit depressing at times, but also very liberating to think about it for a moment. Yes, we also know about Back to the Future. Any questions? Yes, if you can time travel, why do I have to wait here for years for my body to be released? Why would it be possible? Why would it not be possible to send me back to the point where your colleague leaves my body at this very moment? Creature not so late. Yes, you'd think, wouldn't you? No further explanation seems to be coming forth. what has happened to my body? The translator transforms your thought into a clicking sound. You can only hope that the pressing nature of your question has not been lost in translation. Yes, that's the unpleasant part of the lecture. You touched one of our carefully placed transmitters, so your mind was switched with one of our agents. Carefully placed transmitter? You mean the cube? The cube at the top of the abandoned and locked lighthouse in the forgotten backwood village in the middle of nowhere? I guess the transmitter is placed in a way that ensures it's only found by people who are not easily missed. Well, you are here, our agents gathering vital information about your society and environment using your body. You are to remain here in his body and must wait until he has completed his mission. Then he'll erase your memories so you won't take any of your superior knowledge Then we will erase your memory so you won't take any of our superior knowledge with you and send you back. So it was UFOs. And how long does this normally take? The creature answers sheepishly, 3 to 10 years max. This information hits you like a kick in the stomach, which in this body seems to be at the bottom of the fleshy cone. It's a very unusual feeling. 3 to 10 years. You mean Earth years. What am I supposed to do in the meantime? Well, we've got a lot of things to read around here. Also, we'd like you to write down your life story for us. An autobiography for the Great Library, preserved for all eternity. A bit of immortality most beings in the galaxy dare not even hope for. But I'm on a mission. I need to find a little girl. People are counting on me. The creature looks at you with something that, even despite the strange facial features, you managed to recognize as skepticism. If your mission was so important, why did you waste so much time in the lighthouse? Not wrong. Good question, actually. You need to accept that your mission is over. Try to use your time here productively. So what else would you like to know? I'm hungry. I only eat vegetarian food. Do you have any good vegetarian snacks? The creature nods confusedly. Strange question, but yes, it is very important that the food is completely plant-based. Oh, don't worry. We're all vegetarians. There's no other food option. Our species has evolved to the point where we have been feeding ourselves for ages without harming other intelligent life. Somehow this answer doesn't make you as happy as it should. There's no sense of that usual feeling of moral superiority that settles in when you talk about your eating habits. You feel a little down. The Yith collects insecurely with its scissors. Should I get you something to eat? Never mind. I'm not that hungry after all. The creature seems to be baffled by this. Really? None? Nope. Okay. In that case, we'll set you up for training so that you can get to know your new body a bit better. Once you've made some progress, we'll teach you how to write in Yith, and then you can start with writing down your life story. Brink can help. Can you give me a hand here? Brink arrives with a machine that looks like a mix between a forklift truck and a spatula. He carefully scrapes your currently still useless snail body off the floor and transports you out of the room. Hey, just like how they moved Gilbert Grape's mom out of the house when she died. First, you learn to control your new body. The trompe leg extensions, which simultaneously serve as a breathing organ, mouth, and waste outlet, prove to be the biggest challenge. You can only eat if your whole body is working on the task. You almost suffocated several times while eating. You sincerely hope that the agent using your human body is doing a better job of it. Then you start to learn the curved script of the Yith. In fact, everything in the culture of the Yith is curved, smooth, or circular. They have an extreme aversion to right angles. When you ask Frank about it, he replies something about the dogs of Tindalo who live in the corners of time and hunt time travelers. Fair enough. You start to settle in. All in all, Yiths prove to be quite boring people once you actually get to know them. Their bodies do not allow for much mobility, and they have no sense for fiction. And they reproduce via spores, a very impersonal process. which ensures that sex and love and all the dramas associated with them are completely unknown in their society. Since you're living in a host body, you are not allowed to take drugs or participate in any exciting or dangerous activities. Not that these guys probably have many. The vegetarian food of the Yith is either very bland or their taste buds are not very developed. Perhaps it's by design, since the species takes in and excretes food through a single organ. You would kill for a bag of potato chips. Then it comes to the point where you're asked to write down your autobiography. You write. Read about the truthful account of your life. Your story. This creepy yet fascinating race of aliens wants to hear your story, and anybody wants to hear your story, you'll never get a chance like this again. You start writing. You write about your average childhood, boring jobs, friendships, romances, the little triumphs and defeats that nonetheless always motivated you to go on. That was the easy part. Trauma like arm, which you hold, with which you hold. Excuse me. The alien writing device stills. Your autobiography has almost reached the present moment. The reason for your presence in the realm of Yith. The incredibly stupid decision to turn to a life as a private investigator caused by boredom and the consumption of too many Hollywood movies. If only you hadn't given up your old job. You're magnificent as a professional chronic graphic designer or a civil servant. Virtually non-terminable, a solid salary, and holidays that you can take with a clear conscience. Had it not been for the actual work, the senselessness of which regularly plunged you into deep valleys of despair. Putting all your experiences and feelings into words proves to be a good form of therapy. You can't wait to turn your life around, if only you weren't stuck in this lump of alien meat. After a few dull months, it's finally time for a party. In a large hall, one of the archivists gives an extremely long and boring lecture on the importance of rapeseed oil in various human and post-human civilizations. All the Yith gather around small bar tables in the area and listen intently as they sip on nourishing slime, which is slightly sweeter than usual. Afterwards, there's a competition in solving quantum equations. The different working groups complete with nerdy and terrible boring team names compete against each other. The archivists of your group together, the tough ambicites, are kicked out early on by the Atlantic pre-humanities and the persistent Platyhelminths to lukewarm applause. It is practically an orgiastic celebration by the Yith standards. For you, the most important part of the evening is the first contact with the other guests of the Yith. Other beings pushed out of their bodies by the agents of the library and hurled through time stand around in their guest bodies and talk to each other quietly. Fortunately, they have small name tags in which you can see not only their names and working group, but also their species of origin. With you at the table are two creatures who identify as Gregor, post-Mohammedan Eurasia, Homo sapiens, and Zuckle, daughter of Gul's second Amazon Desert Epoch, Megaperiplentia Technologicus. Yeah, you have the urgent need to talk to someone to avoid dying of brain hemorrhage due to boredom. Yes, it is. You talk to Gregor, another human being. The first contact in months you've had with another person. You turn to Gregor, sir. Hi. It's nice to meet you, a fellow human being. Or where exactly are you from? Gregor's Yith head flopped towards you. He seems to be lost in thought, but you have this feeling he is happy to have the opportunity to talk. Is this true? Another human being? So happy to finally be able to talk to a comrade. My name is Gregor Ivashnikov. I'm from Kiev. Greg's head flops about rhythmically. And when are you from? Gregor's upper tentacle briefly twitches. Only a few seconds later do you realize that it was probably an attempt at a tired smile performed by a person in a body that meets exactly zero of the anatomical requirements for a smile. The last thing I remember is celebrating Labor Day with my friends. That was in 1980. I was promised that in 6 years at the very latest I'd be able to go home with my wife and I will. Chernobyl, here I come. Luckily, you're currently in a robust youth body because your human face would be chalk white right now. You don't say anything. Without letting anything on, you listen to Gregor talk about his job in Chernobyl. Security inspector. Impressive. Bringing the family to town, I see. Nuclear power is the energy source of the future. Sure. Here's head flips. Tell me, Gregor, what country are you from? Gregor appears to be standing up a little bit taller. From the greatest country of the world, of course, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Only now does he seem to be reading the check in your own name. Oh, and American. Tell me, in your time, are the workers of your country finally free? Have the capitalist devils surrendered to communism? Fuck, stop. I'm only hot because I'm fat. I wouldn't quite put it like that, you say, without getting into specifics. What, are you serious? Only saying that because we are bitter. You change the subject so as not to add fuel to the fire. Love vodka. You clack your scissors, perhaps a little too enthusiastic here. Time close twitch slightly. Universal interplanetary sign for who doesn't? We're gonna leave the party. This is how you pass your time. Despite your initial bumps, you end up getting more closely acquainted with Gregor, and we'll just call her Z. Your shared fate is what ties you together. Over the coming months and years, you end up becoming friends and sharing common interests. You spend most of your time studying human history. Gregor manages to get you interested in the history of mankind and Earth in general, and you spend a lot of time in the library talking to other guests of the Yith. You become quite an expert in human history, even epochs whose knowledge is almost complete lost in your time, like the Chronicles of Hyperborea. You also learn many things about the lives of the history of Native Americans, things that no one ever taught you in school. You have a long and intense debate with Z about philosophy and learn new and interesting things about yourself. Sometimes in quiet moments, you wonder what you would do if you were back in your old body. You get the feeling that you have never really learned to appreciate it. This is how the years go by, and towards the end, the boredom of the Yith becomes almost bearable. It's not a diss, it's literally a fact. I am overweight. And then your time with the Yith is over. Finally, the day has come. You're being led in the transport room. Same room you arrived in so many years ago. The process starts. You overhear two of the librarians talk. You've erased this participant's memory, right? I thought you were doing that. Oh shit! And you're gone. You wake up as you've woken up many times before after drunken nights in some dive bar, after awful parties at which you drink yourself into a stupor, but it's different this time. The flicker before your eyes ceases. The agony and disorientation give way to a sense of clarity that you've rarely felt. You normally slightly hazy thoughts are clear. Not a shallow pond, but a crystal clear lake. Your memory is filled with knowledge from intense studies that you've undertaken in the great library. So much knowledge. Your gaze wanders through the room in which you find yourself. The room sits there calmly between these four well-known walls. You're at home on your sofa. Well, technically, it's not your sofa. It's a completely new one without the bugs and rats that had moved into a nest in the bottom. Everything is naturally clean, and the sofa does not seem to be the only piece of furniture that has been replaced. Later, you find out that the Yith who has swapped places with you has not only used his 6 years for highly efficient studies, he also applied for a position in the largest historical museum in Boston. Successfully, of course, because the Yith do not do things by halves. Your eyes light up as you read the number on your last paycheck. You hold the paper so close to your face that your nose brushes the paper. Twice a year, twice as often as you normally would, your possessed body has contacted your family, giving them what appear to be completely neutral, boring, meaningless confirmations that you are fine. He has eaten well. Fresh fruit to prescribe daily minimum of vitamins, proteins, and fiber to make his studies as efficient as possible. He has also exercised. In the bathroom, you look at your body and stretch it in front of your mirror. You take off one layer of clothing after another. 6 years have gone by. Intrigued, you look at your face. Few more wrinkles, for sure, yet you feel that your life is only just beginning. Well, we didn't kill the character, but we did reach another end. So with that ending, we're actually going to call a close to this episode. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. I'll see you on Hey everybody, Toddfather6 here signing off. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you want to see more, click the videos that are listed or hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications in order to be notified when I've got more posted. Until then, as always, be good, be kind, be safe. See you next time.